Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
All right, 5 minutes after 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. I don't have a dog right now, but
no.
Every time I see a dog, I want to get a dog. There was a story, I think yesterday or 2 days ago, about a puppy, a bloodhound puppy from the Lake County Sheriff's Office. And they had to change his name. They had named him Rommel, and they had to change it to Scout because Rommel was a Nazi. Maybe nobody knew, but they just thought it was a cool name, and they had to change it because, it wasn't setting well with the community. But anyway, it is the cutest dog. If you ever want to see a cute picture of a dog, look up Scout Lake County Sheriff's Office or something like that. That sad, cute little face. Oh my God, that's a cute dog.
He is adorable puppy.
I was going through my old photographs not too long ago, and I found a picture of one of my dogs that is no longer here.
Oh
my gosh! It never stops making me feel sad, But she had the goofiest face. My dog would look at me the goofiest way. It was just so much fun to remember her. Scott MacDonald is on the phone. He is managing commercial real estate companies while serving as the CEO, president, or the managing director. He set up the MacDonald scholarship programs at universities, and he's a real estate investment consultant and all that real estate stuff, but we're talking about dogs.
Exactly. This is cool.
His book is called Think Like a Dog, How Dogs Teach Us to Be Happy in Life and Successful at Work. Oh my gosh, Scott, I couldn't agree with you more. Good morning, Scott. How are you?
Good morning.
Where are you calling from?
I'm in San Diego right now.
Oh my gosh, thank you for getting up early to talk to us about dogs.
Well, the dog actually gets me up early, so I've been up for a long time.
How many dogs do you have?
I just have one. She's a rescue dog. My son adopted. She was living in the wild in Texas, East Texas. And like a lot of situations, kid adopts dog, kid gets a job, and dog winds up at the parents.
And that is Sadie, the dog on the cover of your book?
Yeah, that's Sadie.
Oh my gosh, that's a cute dog. How old is Sadie?
Sadie is now approaching 6 years old.
Let me ask you something. I know probably you're going to talk to a lot of radio people, but I'm guessing none of them are going to ask you this question. Do you have a communication network with God? Like, can you talk directly to him and make a request that dogs live longer?
I think any communication should be a different level. But unfortunately, their lifespan is not nearly as long as the humans.
You know what I think though? A dog dies at about 15. 14, 15, 6, somewhere around there. And that's about the age when I stopped having fun. So maybe that's good. Maybe it's a good thing. They just live to the point where their fun's done. Okay, time for, I don't know, time for another one. Who knows?
Yeah, that's fun. I mean, no one's asked me that question, so
yeah,
you got that right.
That's my goal. So tell me about the book.
Well, I'll tell you. Let me just share one other observation. So a number of years ago, I'm doing some work in China, and I get a tour of the Forbidden City in Beijing, and they go through this. There's no indoor plumbing, so I asked what happens when the emperor has to go to the bathroom. This is like 500 years ago. And they say, well, it's pretty easy. The servant shows up with a chamber pot, and the emperor goes, and then the servant takes the pot away, cleans it up, and all that. So I'm thinking about this as I'm walking down the street with my dog. Dog goes to the bathroom.
Right.
I pull out the bag. I collect the stuff, and I'm thinking, what just happened here? The dog has become the emperor, and I've become the servant.
That's so funny. That is too funny.
And that gave rise to this whole book. How did the dog no longer hunt for food or water or anything, I bring it to them. So I just thought, how did the dogs get in this position? And
Oh, that is awesome.
And you are such a wonderful humorist. You also have Marty Busella, who did the graphics in the book.
yeah, I wanted this book to be a fun book. It's self-help and there's a lot of personal advice, but I also wanted it to be a fun book. And I found some really funny cartoons. And the author of most of the cartoons, they're dog cartoons, was this guy named Marty Busella. And so I reached out to him, and he agreed to illustrate. He has a dog, too. So he loves dogs. He agreed to illustrate the whole book. So there's all these cartoons and caricatures and funny drawings to demonstrate points. So it's a funny little book.
Oh, it's funny. I just went to the Amazon where you can see a sample of the book, and the first cartoon they come to, it has a front door with a sign that says, "Please do not ring bell." And then you look over at the mailbox, which identifies the family who lives in that house. It is the Pavlovs. That is awesome. That is really funny.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And the whole book is filled with different ideas and perspectives on communications and how to be successful in business and in your personal life.
Yeah, there's a lot of chapters, and each chapter starts out with observations from Sadie, the rescue dog, in her voice. And then I go on and talk about how to apply to the human characteristics. And so, like, being persistent. So, example being, I tell Sadie when I got her, you're not allowed on the bed. It's stay off the bed. And so I go to sleep, Patty goes to sleep, and we're asleep, and the dog hops up on the bed, it goes to sleep. So I wake up, and I kick her off the bed. I said, hey, you're not allowed on the bed. Get out of here. So she waits until we go back to sleep, and then she hops back on the bed. So this goes on for a couple weeks. And then I finally give up. I can't keep getting up every night, kicking this dog off the bed. I'd rather get my sleep. So she wins. So it's persistence. So then I think about, I'm in negotiations with a bank, and the banker says, my first answer is no, my second answer is no, my third answer is no. What don't you understand? And I said, well, the first three answers obviously don't work, so we got to start talking about the fourth. It's the same thing of Sadie just being persistent and me saying you can't take no for an answer. So there's a lot to be learned there.
Did you get a yes on the fourth one?
Yeah, I did, actually.
Oh, that's too funny.
And that's one of the other main points about thinking differently. It's hard for people to change their way of thinking because they think whatever it is, that's the right way, and they're not going to take a different course, but you encourage them to.
Yeah. There's a lot of things there. In the book context, one of the chapters is knowing when to bark. You can't bark all the time. I mean, if a dog barks all the time, you kick the dog out of the house. But if the dog barks when someone comes to the door, if the dog barks when someone friendly goes by, or you kind of accept that. That's what a dog does. So in the human existence, you can't complain all the time. Just people that just totally whine about stuff and totally complain about stuff,
right.
You're not going to want to spend any time with them.
Right.
But people that raise their hand and say, hey, this isn't right, or they stand up when something's wrong, you respect that, and you want them to do that. You want them to bark. And so, if we can emulate what the dog does, there's something there.
We had a guest, Scott, I want to tell you this. We had a guest who told us that when you yell at your dog to get it to stop barking, the dog thinks you're barking with it. He thinks, oh, he's joining my team. We're part of the same team. So don't yell.
I agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. And when Sadie starts barking at something, it's funny. Patty, my partner, will, in a nice voice, say, "Oh, Sadie, be calm," and all that. And I'll say, "Sadie, shut up." With me, she'll just bark even more. So, what does that tell you?
My brother is a veterinarian, and he had saved a dog that got mauled by an older dog. It was a puppy, and it ended up with a trach in its neck. So for the rest of its life, it had to breathe through its neck, which required, constant, because it couldn't cool itself anymore through the mouth, and it couldn't go swimming. Obviously, it would drown. so this dog was a crazy dog, though. I mean, my brother ended up adopting it because the people didn't want it back. Okay, so I was at his house one time, and the UPS man arrived, and the dog was, what was the dog's name again, Robin?
Morris.
Morris, yeah. So Morris, who's no longer with us, but lived a long life after that. So Morris is a pit bull and looks like a tough dog, but is really a sweet dog. And Morris is barking his head off at the UPS driver, but there's no sound coming out because he's got a trach. And the driver's looking at him like, I don't know what to do because there's no sound. It was the funniest thing.
Oh, dear.
You talk about happiness because sometimes, I used to keep my daughter's dog, and it was just such fun just coming home. As soon as I opened the door, the dog's name is Cosmo. He would be right there at the door. He would be smiling, wagging his tail, and no matter what kind of day I had, it just made everything better when he was there.
Yeah, and when you look at how dogs get their way, they don't get their way by threatening or growling, or they get their way by wagging their tail and licking you. And
really,
and when you think about people, if you want to get someone to do something, are you going to be more successful by yelling at them or ordering them, or are you going to be more successful at encouraging, leading, rewarding human behavior? To the extent that we want to achieve certain things, you can do a lot more by encouraging and being helpful than you can by threatening.
Wow.
And you talk about being a great sniffer.
Yeah, I tell you, that dog sniffs a lot.
Dogs
it
live
drives
to
me
sniff.
crazy. Yeah, no, it drives me crazy. But what the dog's doing is he's trying to figure out what went before her, what's coming after her. She leaves messages. And she's trying to understand the environment in which she is transversing, and so did a predator go by? Did prey go by? Did another dog go by? And so understanding environment, and humans don't sniff that much. Dogs have much better sniffers.
Right. We had a guest on again. A lot of our information comes from guests, and he was telling us, that a dog can smell like 1,000 times better than a human. So yeah. I was out walking my dog back in those days, and we're walking down the street, and she's on a leash, and here comes somebody else with a dog that I know, and hey, how you doing? Okay, so the two dogs, my dog and her dog. They have their noses up into each other's butts, and I'm thinking, you can smell 1,000 times better than me, 1,000 times, and you got to get that close.
That goes into this whole thing about communicating. Dogs don't talk, but they communicate, and part of their communicating is smelling each other's butts.
Yeah, and it tells them something. I don't know what it tells them.
Yeah.
You will say that dogs are good observers, and that humans should learn to be that way as well, whether looking at facial expressions or body language.
Yeah, nonverbal communications are a really big deal. There's been all of this stuff written about how important they are. Dogs they've had this down for thousands of years. They can tell you all about nonverbal communication.
I know, but
people are just learning.
But we use words, and the dogs learn some of them. And I have oh my gosh, you're bringing up so many memories for me. Okay, so I remember my dog knew the word out or outside, and that was good words. She knew those words, wanted to go out, would jump around just by saying the word out, outside, right?
Yep.
But she could not tell the difference between the word bath and the word bad. So if she was bad, she knew this is not good. And she would put her ears back. And it's like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Whatever it is, I'm so sorry. But if I said to her, do you want to take a bath? Same thing. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I don't know what I did. And I would say, no, it's okay. We're just going to go outside and take a bath. And she was confused. Like, wait a minute. Outside and bath, that doesn't go together. The ears would go. It was like a flagman on a ship. You know, the ears go up, the ears go down, the ears go up.
Well, I to tell you a funny story. There was an article in the newspaper just last week. They've studied dogs, so they have a pretty good idea of what dogs learn and what they know and what their vocabulary could be. But they haven't studied cats very much. And someone just studied cats, and they did some tests to see if a cat could recognize her name. And they found out, using brain waves and all that the cat absolutely does recognize her name. The cat just chooses not to come when you call her name.
Oh.
Whereas a dog comes running because, it's a dog.
Mm-hmm. And when you make that kind of observation, I mean, how does a person use that in their professional life, in business?
Well, there's I guess a variety of specific things. Like one is planning your escape is one of the chapters, and I think we all have certain confinements that we have to live in and deal with, and you need to figure out how, if you're not comfortable staying in that environment forever, you need to figure out how to move on and plan your escape. And if you have a job that's a dead-end job and you're going nowhere, but you're afraid of leaving because you need the money and what's going to happen and what's your future going to be, then, you got to have a plan. You got to have an escape plan. And so that would be one example of an employee situation. And then in a business situation, communicating with employees and kind of knowing what kinds of things can happen with change in business. There's a lot of things.
And that's what makes you a great CEO and president of corporations, because you understand that and you're able to so eloquently make the employees see that.
Yeah, I think one of the things, I've worked in a lot of businesses that were failing, and I've been the turnaround guy. A CEO can only do so many things. You only have so many hours in a day. You can only get involved in so many actions. So you're relying on others, and typically employees. And you need to inspire those employees so that they do what you need to have done. And you don't really get them to do that by yelling at them or threatening them or telling them you're going to fire them if they don't do that. That's demotivating. So it's leadership, and it's inspiration, and it's rewarding people, and the same relationship exists with your dog. If you want them to do something and you treat them well, and they've already mastered that the other way, in treating you well and being there when you need them, and so it works both ways, and I think it's pretty useful in business.
No, I love that. So is that philosophy incorporated in the book that we're talking about? Think Like a Dog?
Yeah. Yeah, in fact, I'll tell you a funny story. I wrote this book, and originally it was going to be a business book, and it was how to run your business and run your organization based on simple concepts that are learned from dogs. And I had a few people read the draft of the book and give me comments, and one was a professor of business at Indiana University. He said, this is an interesting book. It's well written, but you should really expand it and talk about people and their lives, not just companies. And so I spent the next year and a half doing research on psychology and relationships and people and tying it together. And then I rewrote the book and gave it to a neighbor who is a psychologist, and very well-known psychologist, and said, "Hey, this is not my core expertise, so give me advice." And she said, "You got to get this published. This is wonderful." So that's how the book happened.
That the guy who told you to add the other human stories was a gift from God for you. I think that makes this so much better than what you were first going to release. And for anybody who reads a lot of books, Robin and I read a ton of books just to do this show. If you have something with a good message that is also fun, it keeps us, it holds us, and we can relate to it. We understand it, and I think we're examples of your entire audience.
Well, I hope so, and I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you, because I'm not used to writing personal self-help books, and I'm not used to writing in the voice of a dog. But it's been a fun experience.
How did you get Sadie to trust you in the very beginning, since she was a rescue dog?
Well, I'll tell you another interesting story. My son Ross flew out here with Sadie, and the first day she was here, I took her for a walk to the beach with some friends and their dogs, figuring that their dogs would kind of take care of Sadie and show her the rules of the road, the neighborhood, and so forth. And it's about a mile walk, and it's down some dirt paths, it's over a bridge, it's across a really busy street. So it's not easy to get there, but we got there. I took her off the leash, and she turned around and ran away.
Oh.
And I thought, I've lost my son's dog. So I go back home, and there's Sadie waiting at the door. So she had only walked that way once, and she had only been in this city for a day, and she somehow figured out how to get back to where Ross,
thank God,
was. And so she's really smart. And when I figured out she was smart, it was just, show her a lot of love and spend time with her, and she really has blossomed. And I've benefited greatly as a result as well.
It seems like it. It seems like you two have bonded, and that you have a new perspective on life as well as Sadie does.
Yeah. It's sometimes life is complex, but if you try to take it back to some simple concepts like being present, it can be pretty helpful and informative.
So let me ask you something. When you find something curious, do you cock your head to one side?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I do. I said, I must have learned this from my dog. What? What is that? I was giving my dog some chicken one time, and I noticed she turned her head sideways to eat it. And I said, "Oh, this is the sideways chicken." And then I realized when I went to Taco Bell, everybody eats their tacos with their head tilted. And I said, "Hey, humans eat tacos the way dogs eat chicken. They cock their head to one side for some reason."
That sounds like the beginning of a new book.
And you
cock your head. Yeah.
And you really do exude in your book and through your words that everybody should appreciate the talents and the contributions of others. We shouldn't be jealous of them or have huge egos. We should just embrace those and appreciate everyone.
Yeah, I really believe that. And I'll tell you, a business story. I became CEO of this company in Texas a number of years ago. And I used to look at we had leasing people who leased, it was a shopping center company. We owned 100 shopping centers. And you could see who was doing the leasing and who wasn't doing the leasing. And so I called this one guy in, and he was at the bottom of the list of performance. And I said, Slade, this just really isn't working out. Tell me about how long you've been here and what you've been doing. And he knew all these tenants, and he knew them really well. He just wasn't a production guy. So I said, why don't you try? And I gave him another job in the company, and it was on collections, working with tenants that were in arrears and helping him come up with payment plans and so forth. He was brilliant at that. And then our company was bought by another company that had 500 shopping centers, and Slade wound up, and he has no college education. I'm not sure he graduated from high school, but he had a good knack for understanding people and tenants and small businesses, and he became head of collections for the whole big company. So it was just finding out, what their particular what would you say, abilities are, inclinations, and taking advantage of that. Putting people in the right place can be very helpful in business, and it can be helpful in just life, rather than judge them on what they're doing at the moment. Find out what they're good at doing and what they like to do.
Oh my gosh, that is
Wow.
so well said and so right. Okay, the book is Think Like a Dog: How Dogs Teach Us to Be Happy in Life and Successful at Work. It is written by Scott MacDonald, Chairman, CEO, and Sadie, the rescue dog. Scott, so much fun. One of the things I do, I'm not a psychologist, but if I ever get bummed out, I don't know that I get depressed, but I get bummed out sometimes. The remedy for me is to go to YouTube and turn on silly dog videos. I laugh at them every time. Dogs just doing silly things crack me up. I don't know why.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with you. That's a great idea.
And part of the proceeds of your book are going to your scholarship program.
Yeah, when I moved back to the United States from Australia, my last full-time job was running a company in Australia, and we sold the company, and I did well financially, and so I want to give back. I started out in a poor family, and I was able to get a college education when things weren't as expensive. And that kind of launched my career, and I don't think I would have been as successful had I not had a good education. So I'm trying to make education more affordable for others in a small way. And I've set up scholarships at 5 universities, and they're all pay-it-forward scholarships. The kids who get the money have to then go help other people that are in need. And it's been very successful. The kids have been doing really well. We've got now over 40 scholarships in place. And I use the proceeds of the books and proceeds of some of the business ventures I've been involved with to fund them. And this book will help fund some scholarships.
Oh, I love that.
Wow.
The conversation just got better than it even was. Scott, thank you for taking time. Again, the book is Think Like a Dog. I found it on Amazon. Do you want to give us a different website to go to?
No, that's fine. Well, my website is authorscottmacdonald.com, and it's MAC, MacDonald. But yeah, it's the books through the various booksellers.
Okay, very good. Scott, thank you. And good luck with everything you're doing. I love the conversation.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Larry and Robin.
We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3